Basketball.
Curry sidestep, Curry drive, Curry flip, Curry good!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on KNBR 104.5 and 6.8, streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Osman to Wembanyama. Off the front iron, Wembanyama again, and that will do it. The Warriors win it. 117-113 in an incredible game. They come from 13 down, 8 down at halftime. They get 33 from Steph Curry.
Yeah, fun game, but not without a little drama down the stretch. Nothing easy for the Warriors when they're trying to hold on to a lead in the fourth quarter. Victor Wembanyama, wow, pretty impressive fourth quarter from him, but it was the third quarter in this game that flipped things for the Dubs. The only quarter they won of the four in San Antonio this afternoon and on into the evening, but it is enough. The 37-21 advantage in quarter number 3 for the Warriors to beat the Spurs 117-113. As you hear the final call there, NBC Sports Bay Area, Fitz and Kalena. We welcome you into Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader. As the Warriors win for the fourth consecutive time on this road trip. What's new? The Warriors playing excellent basketball and or figuring out ways to win some of these games down the stretch. And impressive stuff for them in that third quarter to be able to prevail. And now we'll see if they can bring it home. The Warriors, for whatever reason, have not been able to bring it home with them, but they have been able to, and the cycle kind of continues that we've talked about a lot on this show, that cycle of the Warriors go out on the road and you think everything's in big trouble, and then they play much better basketball away from home, and you come home thinking they've really got a chance to build on the momentum, and they just haven't done it. Now, the Warriors not going to be home for very long, as Tuesday is a one-off before they head back to Texas for games against the Rockets and the Mavs, but all in all, we'll get into some of the specific details of this one coming up here between now and 8 o'clock on the KNBR, the sports leader. 808 KNBR is the number if you want to give us a call or shoot us a text. 415-808-5627. The Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line is open there. And also appreciate everybody, as always, especially on this Easter Sunday, for joining in on YouTube, Twitch, and the Twitter live stream as the Warriors do get the win against the Spurs. Some general thoughts here. We'll hear from Greg Silver between now and 8. We also will have Sounds of Silver. We'll have fun with numbers. Big win for the Warriors, though, because they now are 2 games clear of the Rockets. We'll keep everybody updated on everything that's gone on, but the big notes here from the NBA are the Warriors obviously finding a way to win this afternoon, but the Lakers kept pace. They won in Brooklyn 116-104, and the Rockets finally, the long winning streak, 11-game winning streak for Houston is over. Mavs go in, and the Mavs are very hot right now themselves as they've won 7 in a row. That now taking over for the Rockets is the longest current winning streak in the NBA. So the Warriors are going to get those teams the next 3, the Rockets and the Mavs, but the Mavs helped the Warriors out by going into Houston and stopping the hot streak of the Rockets, and that means the Warriors now 2 games up on the Rockets for the 10th and final play-in tournament slot, with the Rockets dipping to 38-36, and the Warriors pick up win number 40, road win number 22 to improve to 22-15. So some general thoughts on this one. Warriors didn't have it in the first half, and in particular, didn't have it in the first quarter. A lethargic, slow, turnover-riddled, first quarter. Bad offensive possessions. The Warriors found themselves down 13 in the first quarter, had a little 8-2 run toward the end of the first quarter, but it was basically bad Klay Thompson, bad Andrew Wiggins in the first quarter. Steph, I thought, looked a little slow. Draymond at that point looked a little bit slow. and the Spurs just look like a team that the Warriors have allowed to compete with them in the other 3 matchups that they've played head-to-head this season, to the point where, especially these last 2, going back over the last couple of weeks here, where San Antonio has really been very comfortable playing against the Warriors, and you thought, oh, more of the same. Like, we've already seen a couple of times this month that the Spurs have the capability to beat the Warriors, even though they only beat them 1 out of what turned out to be these final 3 matchups. But all in all, Warriors down 7 into the first quarter, and you're thinking, is this going to be another one of these games that turns into a disappointment and really kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth, especially with the fact that we're all doing the scoreboard watching thing right now. And I had the Rockets Mavs game on as the Warriors were playing, and I'm kind of watching both, and Dallas is pulling away. They got a big, I think at one point they were up by 28 when I saw it. Might have been even more than that at one point. And you're thinking, this is an opportunity. The Warriors need this one. The Warriors can't lose this one on the day where where the Rockets finally lose and end up still only a game ahead. And then, second quarter, Warriors with a nice run, 16-4 run, but then it was teams exchanging runs, right back down 9. Spurs went on a run. Then Steph had a little mini run himself. But even as Steph and Draymond would try to pull the Warriors back in the game in quarter number 2, the Spurs would push back. Cedi Osman killing the Warriors. You had Collins killing the Warriors. Zach Collins kind of killing the Warriors in the first half. And at the break, it was 60-52, and it was one of those games where 60-52, you did kind of feel like it could have been worse. The Warriors' 3-point shooting in the first half, I thought, really held them up. They made 8 3-pointers. That was really the only thing that Golden State seemingly did well in the first half. And then they didn't shoot a free throw, and some of the numbers are ugly at halftime. No free throws at halftime. And it wasn't because the Warriors weren't getting calls. It was because the Warriors were basically petrified of Wembanyama and weren't attacking at all. They were getting dominated in the paint at halftime. They had no fast break points at halftime. So nothing in, just nothing in transition. They were getting hit on the boards. Wiggins was brutal in the first half and wound up not being a closing player, and rightfully so for the Warriors. But then they come out in the third, and I don't know what was said at halftime. We'll have to work on that for Sounds of Silver. But the Warriors came out, and Draymond Green specifically came out in the third quarter, and Draymond was a man possessed in the best way in the third quarter, attacking Wembanyama at the rim on the first couple of possessions. Immediately, it's a 4-point game. Draymond hits a 3, and the Warriors are up on a 9-0 run that would turn into a 14-0 run that would turn into a 17-2 run. And it was Steph and it was Draymond really setting the tone, and it was Klay Thompson who had hit a 3 as well, as it turned out to be a 17-2 run and a 30-11 longer standing run for the Warriors. The first 6:17 of the quarter was a big run, and then the Warriors end up in that third quarter 37-21 all told, the advantage. And it was basically Draymond, just both ends, doing it all. I mean, just the quintessential Draymond Green shows the world why he is still so important to the Golden State Warriors, despite any and all of the negatives and the ejections and all of the things that we've spent the better part of the last 72 hours talking about leading up to today. Draymond goes out there and puts this performance on: 21 points, 11 assists, 6 boards, 6 steals, a block. He did have 5 turnovers, but he was 8 of 9 and 2 of 2 from 3-point range. He did miss a free throw late, but hit the big free throw that ended up allowing the Warriors to basically prevail in this one and not have any drama in the final 3.9 seconds, as the Warriors do get the win 117 to 113. So 808 KNBR, the number to give me a call or shoot me a text here. It is Dubs OT with JD here on The Sports Leader. As again, we'll keep it going here until 8 o'clock. Appreciate everybody who's starting to jump in the conversation here on YouTube and Twitch as the Warriors now, I think, giving themselves some breathing room. And remember, they have the tiebreaker over the Rockets. So a 2-game lead means that the Rockets over the final 8 games would have to beat the Warriors out by 3. So the Warriors would have to be, the Warrior, if the Rockets were to go, 6-2 at that point in the last 8, then that basically means that the Warriors would have to go 3-5 in the last 8. Now, obviously, the Rockets and Warriors control one of those games. It's pretty much to the point now where, I think if the Warriors go in there and win on Thursday, I think the Warriors are going to have enough to hold the Rockets off. If they can't go in there and win, maybe it gets a little bit dicey. And I think the one thing that we've learned about this Warriors team is there are no just games that you can look at on the schedule and say, all right, well, that's a win, that's a win, that's a win. There are a few games that you should be able to do that over now what will be the final 2 weeks, and we are down to the final 2 weeks of the NBA season. It's going to end 2 weeks from this afternoon. Basically, we're now inside of 2 weeks to go in the season. And, I can start looking at, none of the games this week I'd put in that category, but they got a couple of games against Utah that I would put in that category, and basically a game in Portland that I would put in that category as well. Those would be the only ones. And you got a couple of Dallas, you got a Lakers, you got a Pelicans mixed in there. You've got the game against the Rockets that's in there as well. And so, again, over this final 8-game stretch for the Warriors, as we all enter now into April, I think it's a scenario where you got to get those 3. And I think if you get those 3 and you can get the game in Houston, that's going to be enough to get to 10. Of course, the Warriors still very much alive for the 9 still. And that's the other thing that getting as many wins as possible allows the Warriors to do. When you look at the fact that they do still remain just a game back of the Lakers. If they can go and win at the Lakers, they would get the tiebreaker over the Lakers. So still an opportunity to get to 9, and then you start to look at what's in front of the Warriors. It's Phoenix and Sacramento in all likelihood, as there is starting to become a little bit more separation. Now 2 games separating 6 and 7, the Pelicans who are in at 6 and the Suns who are out at 7. Meaning out of the, guaranteed being a series, out of the playoff picture, having to be in the play-in picture. And it's becoming increasingly likely, as we talked about on Friday, that the Warriors are going to be, it's just looking like it's going to be the Warriors, Lakers, Kings, and Suns more and more. And so, we'll see how everything shakes out as far as that goes. But it's looking like, the Warriors are probably going to have to beat the Lakers and then either the Kings or the Suns if they're going to advance in what would be the Western Conference playoff picture. Wild one going on right now, by the way, in New York, coming down the stretch. Oklahoma City was down big in Madison Square Garden, and now they find themselves up late. And so that would be a potential clinching game. As I kind of glance over at that, it'd be a potential clinching game for OKC on a night where Denver puts themselves into the playoffs and Minnesota had a chance to clinch a spot for themselves, and they ended up losing at home to Chicago. So you start looking up and down the standings, and Denver was the one team that did get in with a win earlier today. OKC, if they can win, they would be in. And the jockeying for the 1 spot, it was looking like, hey, Denver's going to be back at 1 because the Thunder were down to the Knicks. But it looks like OKC is going to have a shot here potentially to win that game late with 12 seconds to go. And looks like the Knicks are shooting free throws maybe. But anyway, 1 point lead for Oklahoma City at 111 to 110 as that one comes down to the wire at Madison Square Garden. And that will be, contingent on who the Warriors would obviously be playing if the Warriors are able to advance and find their way through into the play-in tournament and beyond. So 808 KNBR, the number to give me a call or shoot me a text here. We've got Greg Silver back in our San Francisco studios. We'll bring Greg into the conversation here.
Greg Silver.
Tale of two halves, Greg, for this Warriors team. Again, impressive that they found the energy in the second half. I think a lot of that is Draymond, Steph with some big shots down the stretch. I think this was another game where, Moses Moody was really a positive force for Golden State, but it was a Draymond, Steph, will everybody to victory kind of an afternoon and evening, and the Warriors will take it because we've seen them lose games like tonight a lot over the course of this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you took the words right out of my mouth, and I was, in fact, contemplating texting you with about a minute and a half left in the game, but then I said to myself, wait, hold on, this is actually getting kind of close. And what I was going to say is this is why Draymond Green is on the team. And I think that after the game, I'm thinking, this is not only why Draymond Green's on the team, it's also why Klay Thompson's on the team. Like, yes, Draymond and Klay are both past their primes in different regards. Draymond has been unreliable in terms of staying on the court and keeping his emotions in check. Klay Thompson has just been a little bit more unreliable in terms of inconsistent shooting and whatnot. But I think that it's clear that there is still value that both of those players have. And tonight was the ultimate Draymond Green performance, reminding everybody that, yeah, there's some cons. We saw those cons on full display in Orlando, but there's also some mega pros, and Steph clearly wants to play with Draymond Green. He just wants him to be on the floor, which is understandable why he had that reaction when he was ejected. But I think that whether you are like, no, the negatives outweigh the positives, or you're like, yeah, I get it, this is why he's here, I think the Warriors still see it as it's worth it. And they've been with him for so long that they're just going to ride it out. And it goes back to our old question of the night of it is what it is, in our opinion. And look, I think that closing this game out in the way that they did, I think it does count for something, even if it is against the Spurs, because of the season that the Warriors have had when no game is safe, no lead is safe. Everything's always got to be the hard way. If Steph can't save the team, then nobody can. I think that the fact that Steph didn't have to go crazy down the stretch and it was Draymond and Klay that were making big plays, and the Trace Jackson-Davis pairing with Draymond actually does work really well when you don't have to worry about who can play the three, even though Wiggins didn't have a very good game. So I thought it was just a good, well-rounded team effort. And if the Warriors can get into a playoff series, it's nice that the younger players at least have had some experience of high-stakes basketball, even if you can't truly replicate the playoffs. It beats nothing to me.
Yeah, I give them credit because a week ago, right at this time, we were doing Dubs OT and they had just gotten beaten Minnesota, and it felt, coming off of the disappointing homestand, like it was a potential low point, a potential pivot point, a potential, all right, this team's in really, really dire straits in terms of the ability to even just get into the 10th spot, and to see them be able to win at Miami. I thought the Heat did him a favor. We talked about that with, Jimmy Butler ended up out and they had some players out, but we saw the Warriors, I think really start to grind in Miami and Orlando. And then, when you win those games, then it turns into, hey, now you might be able to win 4 in a row because you're playing Charlotte and San Antonio. And it's not that it's going to be easy. And tonight certainly wasn't easy, but you'd rather be playing Charlotte and San Antonio than playing Denver and OKC these last couple of games with, guys out and clearly fatigue setting in. And so, the Warriors were able to muster enough, led by Draymond in the third, who basically took the game over to, get them to this victory. And, the road trip overall, I mean, a 4-1 trip after you drop the first one in such frustrating fashion as they did in Minnesota, and then to bounce back and win the next 4, especially the 2 games in Florida, which really flipped it. It just goes to show, this team may not ultimately be everything that they wanted to be or everything that the Warrior fan base wanted them to be this season, but they are continuing to fight. And, they've done it without the guy who's been maybe their second best player over the course of the last couple of months too. I mean, doing it without Kuminga, who I really thought his absence was felt in the first half tonight, I think more than it has been felt in any of the 3 games that he had missed, the Orlando game or the Charlotte game. It felt like, all right, yeah, the Warriors could use him, but but tonight in the first half, it was like, man, they really could use Kuminga and, a 10-point first half on 4 of 7 shooting with a couple of free throws, right? Like it just would have, and maybe they would have been down, but maybe they would have been down 1 as opposed to 8. But I think even that is impressive. Opportunities for others, and the ability now to win for the 3rd time on this trip with somebody that's been such a key part of the Warriors' success here during the last 2.5 months. So yeah, get a big nod to the Warriors for that. All right, let's get to the phones. 808 KNBR is the number to give us a call or shoot us a text. 415-808-5627. That's where our buddy Drew Down in Tracy gets us tipped off here on the Sports Leader. What's going on, Drew Down?
Hey, what's up, JD? I just want to start off, man. That boy Wemby, man, he is a problem, man. Offensively, he did his best to not let that team die in the 4th quarter. Defensively, I think I saw he only had 3 blocks. Felt like he had more than that. Obviously, in the first quarter, no, he had some blocks, and obviously once you get blocked once or twice, the hesitation to go to the rim is there. So he was huge. He had a big poster on Trace Jackson Davis, just a little bully ball in there, and just dunked all over him. So yeah, shout out Wemby, man. That guy was amazing tonight. I thought that tech on GP2 where he threw the ball at the stanchion. I guess if that's the rule, that's the rule. But regardless, I thought that tech was pretty weak. But Draymond Green, man, he had some turnovers. He was a little sloppy, but I thought he was really good on Wemby. I thought Wemby at times kind of bullied Trace Jackson Davis a little bit, but Draymond I thought was amazing on him. He had some steals. I thought Draymond had a hell of a game, man. I thought he definitely was a player of the game. He obviously had that big free throw to seal it. I'm not sure. I thought it was Trace, but maybe I looked at the play-by-play. I don't know if it was Trace or Draymond who had that rebound and kick out to Klay Thompson for the 3, at the end of the 4th. I thought that was a big play of the game. And then, of course, the Warriors, and they almost fouled Wemby on that 3-pointer to end the game. But, never in doubt, right? Obviously, the Dubs were shorthanded tonight. No Kuminga, no Wiggins. Well, Wiggins was there, but, not really. So, Steph obviously was amazing. That step back 3 he hit, that moon shot, that was a big shot. I thought Moody and Podge were big. Moody finding his 3-ball is huge for this team. He always brings the energy, but, when he's hitting that 3-ball, he's just way more effective out there. So that was really good to see. I think the last 3 or 4 games, Moody's been able to hit the 3-ball. So that's just big for the team off the bench and offense, especially with Kuminga being out. And then Pajemski was just doing a little bit of everything, rebounding, assisting. He hit some big shots tonight. So just like I said, just a big team win tonight. And the Rockets lost, give the Dubs a little bit of breathing room. And I think the next 5 are going to be, the defining moment. We got the Mavs twice, the Rockets, the Lakers. So the next 5 games are going to be huge. So the season's really on the line, these next 4 out of 5, and let's see what these teams got. They've shown a lot of grit, lately, but let's see if they can keep it up. And I don't know if the 9th season reach, I guess it is, but my thing is let's just get in and see what happens, man. So let's see if this team, got enough to finish the season off. Thanks, Shitty.
Yeah, thanks, Drew Dan. Appreciate it. Yeah, the 9th seed is definitely within reach. I don't think there's a doubt about it. As far as the grit goes, the Warriors have showed grit on the road. The Warriors need to start showing some grit at home. And look, nobody's playing better than the Mavs, who just went in and ended the Rockets' 11-game winning streak and now are going to come back to the Bay or back to Northern California after they had been in Sacramento for basically 4 or 5 days, and then they went to Houston to play the game tonight. Now we're going back to the Bay. Nobody's playing better than Dallas. Dallas has beaten the Warriors a couple of times already this season. Maybe that's not a game that the Warriors win, but it's a game where I think, the Warriors are going to have a lot of big time energy. I want to see more energy from this team at home. Bottom line, you've got Dallas at home. Should be an easy game to get up for, honestly. Although, I got to believe that it's going to feel an awful lot like the 6th game of what's an 8-game road trip with the quick turnaround and everything, and then going right back out on the road. But that's a game that I think is easy to get up for. They've got 2 games at home against Utah the next 2 Sundays, next Sunday and 2 weeks from today to close out the year, both at Chase. Both, those have to be automatic wins. And, then you've got the Pelicans, who are the other team that's going to come in on the Friday before the end of the regular season. And, we'll see. The Pelicans thumped the Warriors back at Chase in January, but this team's got to show more grit at home. Win, lose, or draw. And again, there are 2 games that have to be automatic wins. I think the 2 Jazz games, we'll see about the Pelicans game and the Mavs game. But this team just plays more focused, more energetic, more buttoned up. There's more hustle, there's more grind, there's more grit when they've been on the road. And so I want to see that more at home here moving forward. As far as Steph, Steph with just some huge buckets in this one down the stretch. Huge buckets. The high arching 3 to give the Warriors a 100-92 lead in this one. And then Draymond, as Drew Down mentioned, Draymond with the big block out on Wembanyama to draw the over the back foul, which got him the free throws, boxing him out to get him to the free throw line to hit the 1 of 2 that were the game clinching free throws, or the 1 free throw. But yeah, he also had the rebound off of the Steph miss that turned into the Clay 3. And I mean, that ended up being one of the plays of the game. I mean, the Warriors are, they might not win this game if Draymond doesn't get that board and Clay doesn't make that 3. I mean, we're having they might still be playing in San Antonio at that point. And, I had the thought just in the final, because I pretty much put this one to bed for the Warriors. Like I pretty much thought, all right, they had it. And I'm kind of looking back through my notes and looking back at the play-by-play, and I'm not one to typically say, a game is over and this and that and the other. But I thought the Warriors had this thing when they were up 7 with 1:31 left. 8 basically with 2 minutes left. It was Wembanyama had let's see, what was it? It was the technical. It was Wembanyama hit a 3. Okay, so yeah, the Warriors were up 113-102 with 2:12 left. At that point, Trace Jackson Davis hit a layup. At that point, I'm thinking, all right, the Warriors have this. Then Wembanyama goes down, hits a 3, and then GP2 gets the tech for throwing the ball up against the stanchion, which is an automatic tech. Yeah, weak rule, but automatic tech and definitely a violation. And then it's all of a sudden a 7-point game with 1:59 to go. And even then, I'm thinking, okay, Warriors are probably fine. But no, they, a minute later, it's, from 11 down to 2. And yeah, Curry misses the 16-footer, Draymond offensive rebound. And at that point, I was thinking, if the Warriors blow this lead and kick this game away on top of all the other, I mean, this would have been, I think, a new low coming at the end of a trip on a night where the Rockets also lose. But it didn't happen. And Draymond Green, for all of his faults, Draymond Green is the reason that it didn't happen, because he found the energy in the second half. He found a way to kind of put the team on his back and lead emotionally and lead spiritually and lead in terms of defense and rebounding and ball movement and pace and not being afraid to attack Wembanyama. After the Warriors did not shoot a free throw in the first half, they ended up with 13 in the second half. And Draymond was the one who wasn't afraid to go at Wembanyama. And that was a big part of the reason why the Warriors were able to get the job done. All right, 808 KNBR is the number, as it is Dubs OT with JD, Greg Silver here as well. We'll keep this thing going until about 8 o'clock here on an Easter Sunday. Warriors find themselves with their 40th win of the year, as the Warriors improved to 40-34. They've now won 4 in a row, and they are 22-15 away from home, back at home on Tuesday. We've got Sounds of Silver and some fun with numbers coming up here over the course of the next hour. But your phone calls, your text messages, your comments, as we talk some Dubs basketball here on an Easter Sunday evening. Warriors get the win over the Spurs, 117-113. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
We're going to be championship.
From Chef Curry to CP3, we're repping the Bays team. Dubs OT with John Dickinson now continues. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 104.5.
Step back and rainbowed it in. Oh, what a three. He's got 24.
Mamushkitis Healy is exasperated. He's like, what else am I supposed to do? I'm there. I'm on him.
Double screen for Steph. Curry, wing jumper, rimming out. The rebound, Draymond, play three, knocks it down.
All right, big three from Clay, big rebound from Draymond Green, and then, Stephen Curry, I think the shot of the night, the high-arching three. Warriors up 8 at that point. They go on to win in San Antonio, 117 to 113 is the final. We welcome you back. It's Dubs OT with JD John Dickinson here on an Easter Sunday evening on KNBR, the sports leader. 808 KNBR is the number to give us a call or shoot us a text here as the Warriors improve now to 40-34. 8 games to go for Golden State, and the Warriors back at home for a quick one against Dallas on Tuesday, then right back out on the road for a couple of more as they will take on the Rockets. That's a big game. That's a huge week. And then the Mavs again in Dallas on Friday before coming home. And it's 4 home and 4 away for the Warriors here down the stretch of the season. And they're going to have to be better at home than they've been. And we'll see if they can keep things going on the road against the Rockets, who finally got beat tonight, and against the Dallas Mavericks, who now are the hottest team in the NBA, winners of 7 in a row. But I was just looking at it all of a sudden, and I think, and I may have had it wrong here, but I want to say the Warriors now have the longest winning streak in the league that's not the Mavs, and they do. Yeah, they do. Currently, the longest winning streak in the NBA is Dallas, 7 in a row. The Clippers have won 3 in a row, but the Warriors have won 4 in a row. So it's the 2 hottest teams playing at Chase Center on Tuesday night. And of course, we'll have Dubs OT for you following that one as well, as we're with you here after each and every game. Let's get into the YouTube chat a little bit here on this Easter Sunday evening as the Warriors get it done. Here, some of our regulars: Goo Goo Gaga, Erwin Kwong, a lot of platitudes to begin the festivities tonight. Here, as I get into the chat, CA just avoided a huge letdown. To be honest, I'm one of those. I don't know how you are, Greg, but I'm one of those where, like, yes, that would have been, catastrophically bad had the Warriors ended up, losing that game. Maybe Klay Thompson misses that 3 on the Draymond kick out and the Spurs go down and score and then you end up winning the game. That would have been would that have been the worst one? I think, it's hard to think, and I know there's a bunch of them to choose from, but that being said, that's not where I was going to go with it. Where I was going to go with it was, I don't know. I'm the kind of person that can look at that, Greg, and see the almost in it, and think of the show that we would be doing right now if the Warriors had lost that game. But I also have the ability to very quickly say, you know what, the Warriors dominated the second half for the most part. Wembanyama was special in the fourth quarter. Warriors had a couple of turnovers that and a couple of shots that allowed the Spurs rather to have a chance. But the Warriors found a way to win, and they were the better team. And it's like, I don't worry about the they almost blew it again component of it.
If it was your average season, I think I would be more in line with what you're saying. I'm kind of with CA on this one, in the sense of, can I just enjoy my Sunday? Can I enjoy my Easter Sunday? The win doesn't change anything. It doesn't make them championship contenders all of a sudden. Doesn't make it so Victor Wembanyama, they've got him figured out, or some broad kind of bigger picture overreaction thing. It's just a little bit of a piece to end the weekend. And I thought they were the better team, but they've played like the better team for large chunks of games, and then have played so poorly for some chunks that they've let it slip away, or even almost slip away at other times. I don't think it would have been the worst one. I think Denver, Sacramento, a couple of those Clippers games are probably going to stick at the top for me. But gosh, that would have, losing again to San Antonio, we already saw them do it once without Steph. And that was maybe the ugliest game of the entire season. So I'm just kind of with CA in the, it doesn't change some kind of grand scheme view about the Warriors, but it just makes it so I can do this show in peace. Because you're right, I could think about the show we would be having had it gone differently at the end. And it's not that hard to do a hypothetical in my head, because we've had a good 5 or 6 of those this year.
Yeah, there's been quite a few of them. This one to me was the most similar, or would have been the most similar, to that game in Sacramento on November the 28th, where I mean, the Warriors just, all right, they got it. It's, about in that 7 point range with about a minute and a half left. And, they end up gacking it at that point and losing it. The Denver game, you always know a team like that can come back on you. FL Dubs fan chiming in here. Thank God Kerr did not screw up late fourth quarter substitutions. I don't know what, I mean, to me, it was really, I mean, you look at it and I'm looking at my little lineup sheet that I keep here. He went away. He got away from Wiggins when about 3 minutes in. Wiggins started the fourth quarter, and then he was out for Draymond with about 9 minutes left. Steph also came in with 9 minutes left. So Kurt really wanted to make sure that this one didn't get away, with both of them coming back with 9 minutes left and playing with Klay Thompson at that point. And Moody was out there. And it basically was, GP ended up finishing the game essentially over Wiggins, which I think was the right call. And Moses Moody was playing there in the fourth quarter until Klay came back in for him with about 3 minutes to go. And then it was kind of Podziemski here and there with Trace Jackson Davis out there as well. So, I mean, tonight it was really a matter of, I think Greg, Steve wanted to reward Moody. I think he wasn't going to finish with Wiggins. And then it became a matter of, wanting to get Klay Thompson back in the game as somebody that he trusts in those final 3 minutes. And so, yeah, if Wiggins, I'm trying to think like what ways could Kerr have screwed it up. And I really feel like the only one would have been if he had just kind of blindly gone back to Wiggins with like 5 minutes left on a night where Wiggins really didn't have it.
Yeah, well, this kind of goes back to something we routinely bring up, which is that regardless of what you think about who should be playing or who shouldn't, both you and I have been pretty in sync in the sense of Steve Kerr, when he has fewer options available on this team, seems to have a clearer sense of who to just put out there. And I'm not saying that Jonathan Kuminga being available would have been bad. I think that especially would have helped in the first half. But when you have a bunch of guys that generally can play well, but then sometimes just do not have it, and that lineup stretches all the way to 11, maybe even 12 guys, that becomes just a whole complex night to night, constant, difficult task to figure out. Whereas when he's just got 8 or 9 guys, it becomes a lot more clear cut for him.
Yeah, he basically played 9. I mean, he did play 10. It was really 9. I mean, Looney played 9 minutes. But yeah, it was, a lot of similar minute levels, right? Wiggins didn't have it, so he played less, 21. Peyton played over 20, which I think is a lot for him. Moses Moody got 22 and was a real positive force. And I think you could make a case tonight, Draymond, Steph, and Moody were the 3 most impactful Warriors, just in terms of on the game overall. I thought Podziemski also did a lot of things. I know his plus minus wasn't as good as the others, but sometimes plus minus for a single game can just be an outlier. But I thought Podziemski helped them, and Podziemski, a little bit of a throwback Podziemski game with him making some shots too, 2 of 5 from 3, and the Warriors really needed that. So yeah, it was basically the 9-man rotation with a little bit of Looney, because you need a little bit more of whatever size the Warriors do have if you're going to be going up against somebody like Victor Wembanyama. So 808 KNBR, the number. Warriors win in San Antonio, 117-113. It is Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Erwin Kwong checking in on the YouTube chat. Appreciate everybody watching here on YouTube, Twitch, and the Twitter X stream. Warriors defense wasn't as good as previous games on this trip. The Spurs were knocking down some early threes. Yeah, the Spurs were making the Warriors pay for leaving them open from 3-point range. The Spurs were also really having their way in the paint, which I thought was a big part. There were a couple of things that the turnovers early were really bad for the Warriors. And then you look up at the end and the Warriors won the turnover battle. The Warriors, not in terms of points off turnovers, San Antonio did have a 6-point advantage there, but the Warriors only had 16 turnovers after a really bad start. The Spurs had 19. And while Actually, no, the Warriors did win the battle of the points off turnovers. I take that back. I misread that on the box score. The Warriors got 23 off the Spurs turnovers, so that was a +6 for Golden State in that category. So, no, I give the Warriors credit for, the defense got better. They were less sloppy, but there were also some opportunities, I think, for the Spurs in particular in the first half to maybe extend the lead. And part of the reason they didn't was because the Spurs turned it over too much. That was one area that flipped after it was in favor of San Antonio early. The other area that flipped was the points in the paint really changed. And yeah, the Warriors were getting throttled in the paint. And at the end of the night, it ended up only being a 4-point advantage for San Antonio. And a lot of that, it started late second quarter with that little run, but it really hit in the third with Draymond attacking and trying to get to the bucket. And so not getting dominated in the paint, I thought was really important, and really pushing the pace I thought was important. But yeah, not the defensive effort, to go back to Erwin's point. And San Antonio did make 17 threes at basically a 40% clip. But the Warriors hit 16 of their own. And for whatever reason, San Antonio's got some matchup problems for the Warriors. They've got guys who hustle. They've got, it's just, one of those things. Even with multiple players out other than Wembanyama, and we saw them obviously beat the Warriors without Wembanyama at Chase. But they just have some guys that give the Warriors a lot of trouble, and the way that they play, and Popovich has got them kind of ready and knows the Warriors' tendencies maybe as well as any coach does from playing the Warriors when the Warriors were obviously a lot better than they currently are, and so were the Spurs for that matter. But for whatever reason, I know San Antonio's been playing better. They beat Phoenix. They've beaten some other teams of late. The Warriors know what they can do, but the Spurs that the Warriors have gotten are not the Spurs that the rest of the league has gotten for the most part this year. Although, again, that being said, respectfully towards San Antonio, they have played much better basketball after that early horrendous losing streak. And they have played, a little bit better since the All-Star break as well. And that's, coincidentally, when the Warriors had to play 3 of their 4 matchups head to head against San Antonio. GSW Vera, huge plays by Draymond Green down the stretch. Let's trade him, clowns. Yeah, tonight is that's the game. Drew Down chiming in. We heard his call earlier. Dre was huge tonight. Yeah, Draymond was unbelievable in this game. And that it really is, I think tonight is the shot across the bow to everybody that thinks that the Warriors can just, all right, he's done. It's a wrap. Let him go. Final straw. Adios. See you later. Like that's, tonight shows you. And I still think, and we talked about this Wednesday night, we talked about this Friday night, I still think the good outweighs the bad, but the availability has to be there for Draymond. And, he still is too good of a player to just cast aside, addition by subtraction. This team's better off without him. We had people yesterday on just Dubs, trade him for a bucket of balls, that kind of thing. It's ridiculous.
Just do not go to the Costco hot dog, no bun. That's off limits.
No, that's off limits. But yeah, man, I get it. Draymond can be as aggravating a player as there is. I get it that at this stage of his career, there are going to be some nights where he just doesn't have it. But I thought even tonight in the first half, it kind of looked like he didn't totally have it. But at halftime, he went in, and I know a couple of people were joking. Did he see that, maybe the Rockets were going to get beat? And it's like, hey, this is an opportunity to get a little bit of breathing room. A couple of my buddies had texted that. I think they brought that up on the telecast as well. But you add it all up, and, tonight Draymond showed you, because the Warriors lose this game if they don't have Draymond back and playing at the level. A few people chiming in on the idiotic tech. Yeah, I mean that the Gary Payton throwing the ball up against. Yeah, I mean I think it's silly, but it is the rule, which is
Grant Williams got dinged for the same thing last season in the game at Chase. Right, it was late in the game, and he just kind of hit the ball after a timeout and got dinged for the tech. And that was an example where I was like, I guess it helps the Warriors, but I did think the rule was a little bit silly.
Yeah, it's silly. It really is. Don't love that. San Jose Jazz fan, the third. As we always say in the Jazz fan household, when we look at the clock, still plenty of time to lose. Still plenty of time to lose. Also adding, losing to San Antonio would have been so pathetic. Irwin Kwong. Does Wemby deserve the Stifle Tower moniker more than Gobert? Dubs were literally running away from him in the first half. Yes, they were. I mean, just they wanted no part of it. I mean, that was 100% accurate as far as the Warriors' inability to attack. And I have to think that was a point of emphasis as far as halftime. Like, hey, can't be afraid. And to me, it's try to drive on him and move the ball. It's not so much drive on him and look to go up against him one-on-one, because that's a quick and easy way to get denied. But it's ball movement and player movement around him to try and get the ball basically behind him to where you can go up and be able to score the basketball that way. Let's get back to the phones. Duck Sauce in San Jose, 808 KNBR on the Sports Leader. Hey, Duck Sauce.
Hey, what's going on, JD? Happy Easter, my guy.
Yeah, happy Easter to you.
Thank you. Yeah, couple of takes tonight. I thought Draymond, putting pressure on the rim tonight was big time. When he does that, we're just a different team. I think it opens up so much of the floor. I mean, Steph hit some tough ones, but I also thought he got some really, really clean looks tonight because of Draymond putting pressure at the rim. And then real quick too, just your point about, when he plays like this, it does, it puts kind of some fans in their place about like, hey, you can't just get rid of a guy like that easily. But I will play devil's advocate, JD. What tonight also proved is I think a lot of fans feel like he needs to toe that line to be that type of player where he's almost going over the edge to be that impactful. And he didn't toe that line tonight. You know what I mean? He shut up. He didn't say nothing to the refs as far as I could see. And he was still big time impactful. So to me, that kind of says that he doesn't need to do all that other stuff to be as elite as he can be at the things he's good at. You know what I'm saying? So from here on out, and we got to win games, but I'm scoreboard watching. Monk out in Sacramento is huge. And I mean, I don't know. I wanted your take too. I mean, I've looked at the Suns schedule. The Suns schedule is brutal, JD, brutal down the stretch. So it's going to get interesting. All right, my man. Happy Sunday.
Yeah, a couple of things there on that. I've looked a lot at the Suns schedule too. The one reason I haven't gone down that road too far is because the Suns have been one of these teams, and there's been a lot of these teams, to be honest, in the Western Conference that have almost played better against some of the better teams in some ways. Like they've won at Denver, the Suns have twice. They won at Denver twice since the All-Star break, twice in March. The Suns went in and won a game in Denver. Now, they did lose at San Antonio. They did get blown out at OKC when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wasn't playing. But, yeah, they've got a couple of games against New Orleans left. They've got a couple of games against Minnesota left, and they've got a couple of games against the Clippers left. So, yeah, you look at what the Phoenix Suns have. They have 8 games left. They have 2 New Orleans, 2 Minnesota, 2 Clippers, and then they have Cleveland and Sacramento are the others. And yeah, the final 3 are on the road at the Clippers, at Sacramento, and at Minnesota. So yeah, basically home and away games against New Orleans, the Clippers, and the Kings. But again, I still think I don't feel like the Suns are going to crater in that. Like they're not going to lose every game. They might not go 6-2, but I also don't think that they're going to go 2-6 or 1-7. Now, maybe they're an injury away to somebody from that happening, but if I had to say, I would say, you know what, the Suns will win some of those games and they'll lose some of those games. They'll probably go between 5-3, 4-4, or 3-5. And, if that's what they do, then the only way the Warriors can really pass them is by, getting really hot. I mean, the Warriors are 3 back without the tiebreaker. So just point of context, because I am kind of a nerd when it comes to this. If the Suns go 3-5, then, the Warriors would have to go 7-1 to beat them out, because they'd have to beat them by 4 games because they don't have the tiebreaker. So if you're 3 back, which the Warriors currently are, you have to, in 8 games, be 4 games better. So basically, if the Suns went 2-6, the Warriors would have to go 6-2. But I don't think the Suns are going to go 2-6. And so, I think you're farther back from them than it looks. Sacramento right now is playing Utah tonight, and they're tied in the third quarter in Sacramento, which is not new. The Kings at home against teams that struggle basically put 115, 120 on the scoreboard and make it a 3-minute game, because that's what happens almost every single night. They've lost Malik Monk until at least the end of April. They've lost Kevin Huerter for the remainder of the season. They are vulnerable. They have a difficult schedule coming up. They still go to Boston. They still go to Madison Square Garden. They still go to Oklahoma City between now and the end of the regular season. They play the Pelicans, who have dominated them in 4 games this season. They have the game against Utah that they're playing tonight. They also play the Clippers between now and the end of the season, and they play the Suns. So Sacramento has a Portland in there at the end, and they have a Brooklyn the next 2 Sundays. But when you start to look at their games remaining, and they have 9 with the game that they're playing right now at home against Utah. But you look at that one, and they have 6 really difficult games of the last 8, and then at Brooklyn and Portland over the final couple of Sundays. But it's the same kind of thing. The Warriors will not have the tiebreaker over Sacramento, so the Kings would have to really struggle. Again, think 2-7 over the last 9 for the Warriors to basically go 6-2, and that would be their opportunity to move up. So, point being, Greg, is it's a long shot that the Warriors are going to catch Phoenix and or Sacramento. What's interesting is you may end up in a position, if you can get into the play-in 9-10 game and somehow escape that, where maybe you're playing a team like Sacramento that all of a sudden is down, Huerter and Malik Monk, who against the Warriors, Malik Monk has often been the second best player against the Kings, and he's basically turned into their backup point guard offensively as well. And so, they would miss him in any game that they need to win, in a play-in type of a setting. So that's kind of where my mind has gone a little bit more as far as Phoenix and Sacramento goes. I kind of look at it as, well, if Phoenix plays Sacramento in the 7-8 game, I would favor Phoenix. And then that means Sacramento would be left for the second elimination game that the Warriors would have to play if the Warriors could survive the first one. And given the guys that are out for Sacramento, I think the Warriors would feel pretty good about that matchup at this point. All in all, I think there is some reasons for optimism. I'm also not ready, Greg, to go down the road of, hey, the Warriors are going to go 7-1 in the last 8, because that would mean that they are going to win all or almost all of their home games. And they just haven't done it.
They have not earned any expectation like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of done with the whole. I'm just kind of done with it. And I look at a week like this week. I think this week's going to tell the story. If they can go 2-1 this week and then chase that one with a win against Utah a week from tonight, and then you go into the Laker game and all of a sudden you go into that Laker game, and where would that put the Warriors going into that Laker game if they were able to go 3-1? Excuse me, let's say in the next 4, all of a sudden they're 43-35. Then we'll see where everybody else is at that particular point in time. But I got to believe that they're going to keep this thing going, or I got to see them basically keep this thing going before I'm going to fully believe that they're going to get on one of these major runs.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And I mean, it's the opposite of last year. They're going home, and they can treat this one home game against Dallas like a road game, because it kind of is a little bit of a pseudo road trip, and obviously not the original planned scheduling. That was just a part of the rescheduling when they had to take a week off because of Decky and his tragic passing. But yeah, it's this is a huge week. Like, I was thinking yesterday after Just Dubs, how much I'm looking forward to next week's Just Dubs, because we're going to have 2 Dallas games and a Houston game that's happened by then. And then we're going to be able to really talk. Like, is it over? Is it time to rip off the Band-Aid? Or are they in a more comfortable seat? And we're thinking about, like, can you get a favorable play-in matchup?
Yeah, that no doubt. I think the next 3 are going to tell the story. Can they cool off Dallas? They haven't beaten Dallas this year. The Rockets they've owned. Again, they haven't lost to the Rockets since before COVID. This is a different looking Rocket team than when the Warriors played them a couple of times early. They played them, I think, the 3rd game of the season, and then played them in November on that homestand where the Warriors lost every game except for the Rockets game. I think that was the week of Thanksgiving when the Warriors last played the Rockets. They only played the 3 times over the course of this season. All right. 808 KNBR is the phone number. Appreciate Duck Sauce. Appreciate Drew Down. Appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch. We'll go ahead and pause here. We do have a couple of text messages to get to, the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. And Sounds of Silver is coming up as the Warriors win in San Antonio, 117-113. We'll have some fun with numbers between now and 8 as you listen to Dubs OT with JD. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Did you hear something?
Yeah, like a swoosh.
Yeah.
Dubs OT presents the sounds of silver. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
I just thought I needed to be aggressive. A couple of those ones, I got turnovers in the first half. Vic was kind of baiting me into the pass and then falling back. So I knew coming out in the second half that if I drove at him, I just had to be aggressive, try to get into his body to negate his shot blocking. And then on the defensive end, just doing what I do, being active. We were switching a lot with Vic because of the problems that he creates. So when I was switching onto the guards, just trying to have high hands and make them make tough passes. When they throw the ball to Vic, they're going to throw it up high because that's where he can catch it and where no one else can. So just wanted to have high hands and try to deflect the pass. And we was able to come up with a couple steals and get out in transition.
All right, Draymond Green there on the adjustments for the Warriors in the second half as a big third quarter for the Dubs, and he was at the forefront of it. 37-21 Warriors in the third. They win 117-113 at San Antonio. 4-1 road trip, now 40-34 on the season. Greg, we were talking about the Kings. The Kings must have heard me. The Kings must have heard me during the last segment when we had noted that they were tied with Utah early in the third quarter. They are on a 21-2 run since we said that. I said it. No, there's no we. I'm not going to loop you into that. Since I said every one of their games is close with 5 minutes to go when they play bad teams at home, 21-2 Sacramento. So they're up 19 on the Jazz. Again, I think that ship has sailed. The Kings, I do think, are vulnerable. If the Warriors could get to a point, still a big if, to where they could play them in an elimination game for the 8 seed, even if it's a Golden One Center. But I don't think Sacramento is losing enough here between now and the end of the season to where the Warriors are going to be able to pass them in the standings. Like they're going to be 7 or 8. I don't think they're going to be above 7 or 8, given the injuries and who's ahead of them and how well a couple of the teams are playing ahead of them now. But they're still going to be, I think, in a 7-8 game. And I think they're going to be they're almost in the same situation that the Warriors are, where they're going to be in the 7-8 game, and it's probably going to be against Phoenix, and they're playing right now for where the game's going to be. And the Warriors are kind of in that same boat, playing against the Lakers. Where's that game going to be? And then, obviously the winner of the 9-10 will play the loser for the 7-8, and we'll kind of go from there. All right, Greg Silver's back. Sounds of Silver time here on Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader. Still more comments from the YouTube chat to get to between now and 8 o'clock. And also, I do want to get to a couple of text messages in the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line as well, as we've had a few good ones pop in here over the last.
Go for it now. Why not? Let's honor the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line.
Let's honor them now. 925 chiming in. We can run through a couple of these quickly. This team's ceiling is as high as their floor. There is as high as their floor is low. Crazy. No disagreement there. And sometimes you see it even within the same game. 510 also adding, different person from the 510. This is Raphael. Any chance we can go get Malik Monk this summer? Would love to have him on our team. Not unless Malik Monk wants to take a pay cut and play for the mid-level exception, because I don't think the Warriors can clear nearly enough money. Malik Monk I think he's a $9 million player this year. I think he signed a 2-18 or close to 2-20 with Sacramento. He's going to be he might be a $20 million player next year. I think definitely in the 17 to 20 range per year. And obviously is still a younger player, and he's going to be looking to get the bag. Will Sacramento give him the bag? That remains to be seen. But yeah, that's going to be a big one. He is going to be a free agent here coming up at the end of the year, coming off of, I think it was an MCL sprain that's going to keep him out 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, basically reevaluated in 4 weeks. So no Malik Monk for the Kings. They'd have to basically win a round before Malik Monk would be able to return. So that's a pretty devastating blow, on top of the fact that they lost Kevin Huerter for the season earlier in the week. 5-3-0. Warriors made a statement to the rest of the West with this dominant 4-1 trip. And then the 661 Dub Nation loving the focus and excellence on the road all season. Now it just needs to translate to Chase Center to make a deep playoff run. 661 still open-minded toward a deep playoff run. And then the 949, the Dubs got their swag back during this road trip and will win the play-in and make a playoff run. So people are feeling good tonight on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line off of this 4-1 trip. We've been here before. So I can't. And again, I know it's one home game and then they're going back on the road. And they should be amped for that game against Dallas. I could also see them being really tired against for the game against Dallas. Dallas, by the way, they're coming from Texas as well. They went from Sacramento, where they were Friday, to Houston to play tonight, and then they're coming back to California to play that game before they go back home, and then they're going to play the Warriors again on Friday. What do we got tonight as far as Sounds of Silver, Greg?
We got a lot. We got a lot of really good stuff, too, because the Giants did not offer us any post-game and went straight into the Warriors. But that's okay, because the Warriors offered us a lot of post-game, and our guy Kyle Haar is still rolling in some Steph Curry sound as we speak, doing a great job over there out in the bullpen. But we're going to start it with Steve Kerr. So that rejoin was Draymond Green on the mental adjustments he made at halftime to be more aggressive offensively and defensively. And you saw it with both. A 20-plus point performance from Mr. Green. Mr. Green on the court with the candlestick. I don't know. That's just my weird clue. Just forget it. Wow. Let's go to Steve Kerr talking about the Warriors' intensity in the second half and how that changed the momentum. Steve Kerr loves him some defense is what he had to say.
Yeah, I think, just recognizing at halftime, what was happening in the game and coming out in the third and changing the momentum in the game with our defensive pressure. And then that connected our offense. And that flipped the game around. And then obviously we kind of had to hang on there at the end. But, to be on the road for 8 days and do what we just did, that's a sign of a really good team.
It is. And, I got to think, and look, we don't know how this whole thing's going to end up, but I got to think, nights like tonight and wins like the last three in particular, going back to where this thing looked like it really could get off the rails Wednesday when Draymond gets ejected in Orlando. And not only do the Warriors win that one, but then they find ways to win Friday and tonight and really win on a night where they didn't have it in the first half. I got to wonder if Steve really kind of sits back and, he feels good about the fact that he's showed so much positivity toward this team when there's been so much negativity, I think, toward this team, because he keeps saying over and over and over and over, they're going to figure it out. They're going to figure it out. This is a good team. I believe in this team. They still haven't quite done it, but there have been times where the whole thing, Greg, can completely look like it's going to fall apart. And just as much as there's been times where it looks like they're going to get on a run and they don't, there have equally, if not more, been times where it looks like it could completely fall apart and they haven't let it fall apart. And I think, that's a credit to Steve, and that's a credit to the veterans and the young players. It's really the whole team, because there's been so much more evenly spread contributions, I think, from young and old on this team this season.
I mean, good or bad, this is the group that they're going to either rise up or go down with, so might as well be all in. And he also talked about the resilience and grit of the team, but we had so many good clips to play that I actually skipped over that one. I will play one more Steve Kerr cut, though, and John Lennon once said he thought there were like 12 geniuses in the world and that he certainly was in that category. Steve Kerr might have to lobby for a certain player on his team, at least in terms of basketball, to be added to that mix. This is what he had to say about the player of tonight, Draymond Green.
Man, Draymond was incredible tonight. That was a defensive masterpiece. The offensive board at the end with the Clay three, probably play of the game. But you can see, you watch that game, Draymond he's a genius defensively.
No argument there. No argument there. When Draymond has got the energy, we know that Draymond's got the mind for it, and we know Draymond's got the skill and the ability to do it. And yeah, I do think, he is as unique a player as there's ever been in NBA history, with the size and or lack of size, but the ability to defend so many different positions and also just understand defense to where he connects everybody. Like, he knows the plays to make, but he also knows where everybody needs to be. And he's kind of that coach on the floor defensively as well. So yeah, yes, I think Draymond is as close to defensive genius as there could be. I'm a little uncomfortable using that word, but I do think sometimes we throw it around, especially in the NFL conversation. But I think it applies to Draymond, to be perfectly honest.
Do you throw yourself into that mix?
No. Maybe with like calendar knowledge or something like that.
Oh, for sure. On the calendar knowledge. Yeah.
I'm a calendar and schedule genius.
So what was that, March 28th, when the Warriors were in Atlanta and then Curry got ejected in the third quarter? Anyway, I'm making that up, by the way. That's not something he said, but because you would correct me if it was wrong, which it is. Let's keep moving here. Enough talking about Draymond Green. Let's hear from Draymond Green. And we got a couple of clips to play from him. One that we're not going to play. He said he thinks Victor Wembanyama is a top 20 player in the NBA already.
Like right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Draymond is the type to praise people that he really respects. And, Wemby is going
Where's
to be
Kuminga? Does that
problem.
mean Kuminga's 12? Because he's already said. Does that mean Kuminga's got to be ahead of him, right? I'm kidding.
Well, we'd have to ask him. I'm just the messenger here, but this is what Draymond had to say in terms of breaking down that very important play, the paramount game-saving play of the offensive rebound off of Steph's tough look and then getting it to Klay Thompson. Actually, before I play that cut, just got to drop a little. And this is what Draymond Green had to say.
Obviously, I knew, knowing that we got to get a shot off, I just tried to position myself for the offensive rebound like I was defensive rebound. So I was able to get behind Victor. And once I got behind him, I just started boxing him out, anticipating that we missed the shot and get the rebound. And even I thought I had a great box out. And even then, he still didn't let me get the rebound, So he is a very, 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 very special talent. I was just telling Trace and those guys, I'm happy I had the opportunity to play against him now, because they'll have to deal with him a lot later, and I won't be in the league no more. So that's good for me.
Yeah, that is true. He is gonna, I think, make a significant jump. I think from this year to next year, and I think he already has made a significant jump from where he was at the beginning of the year to where he is now. I actually, when you relayed what Draymond said about Wembanyama being a top 20 player, I didn't disagree. Off the, sometimes Draymond will say something and I'll kind of go, I don't know. I actually think if we ran through it, it probably would ring true if we really did. And so, and if he's not, he's going to be by the end of this calendar year, I think, when everybody breaks off here in 2 weeks, at least in San Antonio, and then they come back in October, and he gets an off season and they look to maybe build that team a little bit more effectively around him to try and win. So yeah, incredible play by Draymond to block him out. And yeah, he's an unbelievable talent. And honestly, you look at the standings and the fact that, just to look at how difficult San Antonio has been on the Warriors just in these 3 games that they've played in the last 3 weeks. And now you think of Wembanyama ascending and that team getting better. And it just there are times where we go big picture on the Warriors and what they have to do. But part of that, Greg, is looking around at some of these other teams. And there are teams, Houston is one. And I think San Antonio is another, where you look at a couple of teams that are below the Warriors in the standings, but are going to be significantly improved next year. And, to what level, the Warriors are not only going to be competing to move up against the teams that are above them, but they're also going to have to be competing to stay above and have to get better to stay above some of the teams that are beneath them.
I was doing this activity yesterday, actually, about a half hour before our Just Dubs, because I was texting one of my good longtime friends who's a Kings fan. We were talking about the Malik Monk injury, and we're just like, who in the West is even going to be bad next year that we can say as probable right now? Like Portland, yeah. Utah, they're collecting assets. I don't think they'll be great, but they might not suck.
They're not going to be up there. They're not going to be a play-in team, I don't think, next year. I think they're bottom 5, right? There's like the 3 divisions, right? It's like you got the top 5 or 6, and then you've got the play-in division, and then you've got the teams that are just out. I still think Utah's probably out.
I would say so too, but it's like they're not the worst. And then, San Antonio maybe needs another year. Maybe, like that's an if. Memphis is going to get guys back. Houston is incredibly well coached and is playing their face off right now. So it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't see the West getting a whole lot easier next year.
No, I mean, I don't. I mean, again, look, Oklahoma City, we'll see if they bounce. I mean, they shouldn't when you look at the age of their talent. Like OKC should be, are they going to win more games? Hell, they're going to push 60 this year. I mean, they're going to win probably 57 or 58, this year. Denver, we'll see. They've got their big 3. Minnesota could take OKC and Minnesota could maybe take steps back in terms of record, but they're still going to be really good. What happens with the Clippers and Harden? What happens with the Clippers and Paul George? They could potentially dip, but they're going to be moving into a new arena, and Ballmer's going to want to keep them closer to the top of the mountain than not. Dallas has seemingly figured it out with Luka and Kyrie and the players that they need around them. The Pelicans, if they keep their core group together and are healthy, are really good. The Suns could be getting a little older. The Kings, I think, could be in a little trouble, only based on the fact that they might lose Monk, and these other teams are growing. Like they're I think more similarly in maybe the Warriors camp of like they kind of have to battle the teams that are above them and the teams that are below them because I think but they have a foundation they like in Fox and Sabonis, and Keegan Murray even is a third player that they think has the potential to be a star. So I think they're young enough to still be on the ascent. The Lakers aren't just going to go down like chumps. And then, Houston and San Antonio. And I'll even throw in Memphis, Greg. I think Memphis is set up next year to be significantly better than they were this year with John Morant coming back and Bane being healthy and Jaren Jackson Jr. And now they got GG. And I mean, they've been able to sort of build around the rest of. So I'm with a long-winded answer, but I even think Memphis rather is a team that's beneath the Warriors that you got to be on the lookout for next year.
Yeah, 100%. Let's keep getting them some cuts because I actually got 3 more I wanted to play, and I'll keep it short.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Them off.
Yeah.
So it's not often that I will play old sounds for Sounds of Silver, but we had a YouTube-only post-game show a couple of days ago on Friday. And I really like this Chris Paul quote because it even moved into today theme-wise with something Steve Kerr said in the pregame. And the following cut we'll get to after this one. But this was Chris Paul saying that Moses Moody is one of his favorite teammates that he's ever played with. And here's why.
Moses is just a pro, man. You know what I mean? Moses is one of those guys that, we have guys that go hoop days in between games, or the morning of the game, they might go hoop and stuff because Mo may not be in the rotation. So he'll hoop in the morning thinking that he might not be part of the rotation. And then game time will come and coach will be like, you starting, and he just stay ready. And you got to appreciate somebody like Mo because a lot of guys would be pouting and, man, I ain't ready. I played this morning or whatnot, but he just stay ready. And he one of my favorite teammates my whole career.
I mean, I think that just tells the story of Moses Moody. I mean, in a big time, and you hear how glowingly Steve Kerr speaks of Moody. I mean, really all the veterans, but to have somebody that has, been around the game for as long as he has and has been a mentor to young players. And he's seen the guys that want to do it the right way and the guys that haven't. And Chris Paul has been on a lot of different teams. And I mean, I think that's an incredible testament to Moody and just the professionalism. And at times, Greg, I'll kind of wrap this cut on this note. At times, I think it works against him. I think the professionalism, there are some people in life, and it's just in all industries, there are people who are professional and steady and don't complain and roll with the punches. And sometimes they get in some ways taken advantage of, to the point where it's like, hey, I'm not going to play this guy because I know he can handle it. And I mean,
take Looney. Looney, I know was less effective in lineups this year, so it wasn't completely out of the blue. But I don't think it was difficult for Steve Kerr, at least from the perspective of, it's going to create more tension and drama. Like Looney's like, all right,
and he's like, all right, and he rolls with it. So important. What else do we have? A couple more here, and then we'll do some fun with numbers. Hell, we may even take a break and come back in the 8:00 hour to do fun with numbers. I don't know. Is that allowed?
I think that probably, it's allowed. I think that's probably actually the plan right now. So,
okay.
Well, let's hear from Moses Moody himself instead of just talking about him. Steve Kerr had a funny pregame cut saying that Moody used an analogy about rocky seas and a sailor that Kerr laughed at how he butchered in the pregame. But this is Moses Moody in the postgame talking about just being ready. And like Chris Paul said, he stays ready.
Yeah, definitely. Like that. It hasn't been a smooth sea. It's been bumpy. It's been, I heard somebody else talk about don't be surprised if the boat's going to rock during the storm. It's supposed to. The life is a storm and everything's a journey. Not expecting everything to be straight. It's just being prepared for whatever.
There you go. Moses Moody. Master of the storms. He's just a pro. I just like the dude. I like the dude. I like the way he carries himself. I like his game, honestly. I mean, it's unfortunate that at times he hasn't been able to make threes consistently, which I think has been the biggest reason, as we talk about every night, that he hasn't been on the floor more consistently. But sometimes you do need players that can just be the 10th man. And sometimes they're going to be the 7th or the 8th man. Other times that means you might not play, but you need guys that can stay ready in that situation. I think it's not the most ideal fit for him, even though he's fully capable of doing it, because he's a young player that wants to grow and get paid and make an impact. He ain't that far off from, say, a Jonathan Kuminga in terms of, was picked 7 selections later and is coming up on an extension that he's, probably not going to get a huge deal on. And probably won't even get an extension this offseason. And so somebody that's going to have to play it out, and probably when he sits back at home at night wishes that his career was farther along. So, you understand, but also respect what Moses Moody brings to the table. One more. We're going to hear a little Steph. What do we got?
We got to hear a little Steph, because we can't do a full Sounds of Silver, get Steph at the podium and not use anything from it. So this is about a minute long, and it's Steph just talking about being able to hold the lead every time the Spurs made a punch back their way.
That's interesting, because you look at their record and you expect them to, I guess the narrative might be that they might lay down and quit, but they're playing for, confidence and just vibes on trying to finish the season strong. And you're playing free. So anytime we had separation, they were just, responding, like you said. Wemby's hitting a bunch of threes. Devontae Graham off the bench hit a couple of big shots. It seemed like they were always, responding. And in their home building, that's what you expect. So, like I said, no style points for us on every time we really had a built a momentum. They were right there, with an answer. But thankfully, we had enough down the stretch. Clay hitting that big shot. 30 seconds left.
Yeah, enough down the stretch. Big shot for Clay. And, I also think big picture is it's another team that isn't intimidated by the Warriors. anymore, right? Like they love playing against him because they're playing against the OGs, but aren't intimidated by him. And I think there's an element of that as well, which allows some of these teams to hang in. And, I think at times that's where, that does deflate and defeat the Warriors. The fact that they're always getting that best effort when they are not at the level that they were. And let's just be honest. Steph, for as great as he still is not at the level that he once was. Draymond was unbelievable tonight, less consistent, with that than he has been. And Clay, it's an obvious one. And the young players have been up and down. But yeah, some resolve shown by the Warriors to be able to close this one out. All right, let's go ahead and pause here quickly. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll do fun with numbers on the other side. And we will also finish up with some comments from the folks in the YouTube stream as the Warriors win tonight at San Antonio. Good, meaty sounds of silver. Warriors win over the Spurs, 117-113. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
I used to play baseball when I was young. Yeah, it'd be hot.
Really? How good a baseball player were you?
I could have went to the MLB.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
Champagny missing there. Collins fighting for the rebound. Leslie gets the follow, and there will be a foul there.
Yeah, Coach Kerr is livid. He wants it on the other side. And they gave it to Branham on this side. He's going to get a 10.
So Steve's going to get a T.
Yeah, Steve picks up the T. That brought to you by Greg Silver, also Fitz and Kalena on NBC Sports Bay Area. Now, Greg, explain to the people why you decided to return to Dubs OT with JD and Greg Silver here on KNBR, the sports leader, with a highlight of Steve Kerr picking up a technical foul.
Just something a little different, like to keep people on their toes. And let's be honest, I love a good Steve Kerr technical foul. It always just kind of funny to watch. Like when he gets like really angry, and Mike Brown used to have to hold him back a couple of times. I was like, oh, I like this. Watching Steve just get fired up.
Yeah, there was at one point, the one with Mike Brown that I remember was the time where Steve like visibly, he basically kind of threw him aside, like stay away from me. Like I know what I'm doing. Like, don't try to control me. I'm fine. Get the heck away from me. But yeah, all good in the end, as the Warriors do wind up winning the game 117-113. That tech coming early in this one in the midst of a bad stretch, some bad turnovers for the Warriors. They were pretty lethargic at the beginning and then went on a run. The Spurs did when Victor Wembanyama went out of the game. It was a quick Spurs by 13 from a tie game, and some bad offensive possessions for the Warriors there. That's when Kerr picked up the tech, and then the Warriors did have an 8-2 run at the end of the quarter to go from 13-7, and that sort of set the stage for the first little stretch of the game where the Warriors were able to hang in before they were able to turn the game around in quarter number 3. All right, final segment. And that means fun with numbers here on Dubs OT. Did we play the thing already or no? We didn't.
We did.
Oh, we did play the thing. Okay, we did play the thing. So we'll jump into it. I was a little late getting back into my chair here.
Katy Perry's always a little distracting, especially the good throwbacks. I get you.
Yeah, no doubt. Especially here in the home studio, sometimes I can get a little bit distracted when I go in the other room to grab a quick snack maybe, or a beverage. And it is a holiday. So, you always want to make sure that you're hydrated at the level that you need to. By the way, the Kings up 21 on Utah. So for those that did have Sacramento falling and the Warriors being able to catch them, not going to get any help tonight from Utah. And honestly, you look at the next 2 Sundays for the Warriors, they have Utah at Chase each of the next 2 Sundays. The Warriors need to handle business the same way the Kings are handling business, even though it was a tie game early in the third quarter. So fun with numbers here. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Warriors get the 4th straight win on the road. Now 22-15 on the road, and 14, Greg, of 17 away from home. 4-1 trip. They win the season series against the Spurs 3-1, although winning the season series against the Spurs 3-1, I'll say it feels like a little bit of a disappointment this year, given the fact that San Antonio's 18-57. This is a year where not beating the Spurs 4 times out of 4, I think, goes down as one of the games that ultimately will prevent the Warriors from being where they want to be in the NBA standings. 43rd clutch game. The Warriors have caught up to Atlanta now for the most clutch games in the league, and tonight was number 43. And that's, of course, a game that's within 5 points in the final 5 minutes. And the Warriors won this one, so they are now 21-22 in clutch games. So getting closer to 500. That's been kind of a back and forth all year long. The Warriors, for those of you who are into this sort of thing, 13-8 all time on Easter Sunday, and they've won 9 of the last 11 on the holiday. So some of that, I would imagine, coinciding with how dominant the Warriors have been over the last decade or decade plus. Back at home Tuesday, Golden State going at it with the Mavs in the rescheduled game from January. Good stuff. First time this season also that the Warriors are 6 games over 500 on the road, or 6 games over 500 period. By the way, is that right? I want to make sure I got that note right. First time this season. Yeah, this is the first time all season that the Warriors are 6 game over 500. This is the high water mark for the Warriors. That's right. I thought they were, for some reason, I thought they had been, but no, 5 is the highest point that the Warriors have been at any point. The Warriors also have 11 wins now when trailing by 10 or more. We've talked about the games that the Warriors have lost from ahead. They've also had some games where they've come from behind, trailing by 10 or more, and they were down by 13 when San Antonio was on their biggest lead of the night. That was early first quarter lead for them. And the Warriors also, think about this one for the OGs out there, for the old heads out there. The Warriors won for the 6th straight time in San Antonio. The Warriors have won 6 straight in San Antonio and 9 of the last 12 overall, but 6 straight in San Antonio when there was a point that the Warriors, I mean, what was the streak? 30 in a row or something in the regular season, basically going back from like 1997 when Tim Duncan came into the league until the 73-9 year when the Warriors won there in the regular season. So impressive stuff there for the Warriors. Some individual notes to get to. Stephen Curry, 33 points, his 27th 30-plus point game of the season, 7 of 15 from 3, which it puts him furthering his league lead now with 329 makes. It also got him beyond his 2016-27 season for the 5th most makes in a single season. Curry has 5 of the top 6 single season 3-point totals in NBA history. So Curry with a little bit of history there. Draymond Green was a monster, 21 points, 11 assists, 6 boards, season high 6 steals, 8th double-double of the season. And Draymond also has tied Chris Mullin for the most games played in franchise history with 807 career regular season appearances. Moses Moody, double figures for the 3rd straight game. He's been big on this road trip. And Jonathan Kuminga, as we tie things back to the YouTube chat here to close things out, Erwin had said and asked the question, what is the report on Kuminga? Didn't think he was so hurt that he would miss 2 straight games. And yeah, now it's been 3. And the official word is bilateral tendinitis. Now, the bilateral tendinitis is both knees, basically. He has tendinitis in both knees. So 3rd straight game missed for Kuminga. And I know Steve Kerr had mentioned earlier on the trip tendinitis. It had officially been listed as soreness. Came up as tendinitis yesterday, and when it came up as tendinitis yesterday, that was the first time where I thought, oh, like he probably isn't going to play tomorrow, like meaning today. And so, yeah, keep an eye on that. He's still day-to-day. He's been questionable for all of these games, basically right up until an hour or an hour and a half before when Steve Kerr made the announcement that Kuminga was going to be out. So I don't think it's anything that's like season in jeopardy, but definitely something you want to calm it down. And so, making sure that he has enough games off to where he can come back and contribute, I think is going to be important. Final couple of comments here. Anything that stands out, Greg? I always like to make sure that we don't miss something. Dumpster Fire Dan, the elephant in the room is This team is much better defensively without Kuminga. Trace Jackson-Davis and Dre in the front court is more formidable, but JK needs to start, so says the media and the fans. It's going to be interesting the longer Kuminga is out as to how the Warriors reacclimate Kuminga. That was also a thought, Greg, that I had today, was would there be a scenario where Kuminga comes back and doesn't start? Is that a can of worms? Is that like it just...
Well, you know me, and I'm like, yes, maybe that, but also, is there a scenario where you close without Kuminga so you can do Draymond and Trace Jackson-Davis? And we know how Kuminga sometimes reacts to those type of situations.
Yeah, it's definitely not nothing. It's definitely not nothing. And I think you're right. I think you hit it. It's the closing that's more important than the starting. But we'll see. I mean, again, the longer he's out, I think the more it becomes an issue. Somebody had said, should Trace, a few people have said, and somebody even tweeted at me at one point in the last couple of days and basically said, Trace Jackson-Davis should keep starting. Or do you see, JD, that the Warriors would keep? And I said, no, probably not, because, Kuminga is the 4. And if he's going to start it, but it does, not unless they're going to have Kuminga come off the bench. So if you want TJD to start, then that means Kuminga is going to be coming off the bench. Douglas Mikes, Draymond could not play the 5 for significant minutes. So if that's the case, Kuminga needs to come off the bench until he learns to play the 2 or play the 3. He's never going to be a 2, but I mean, I wonder if the Warriors do look at him maybe shifting toward being able to play more 3 next year. Like, I wonder if that's I've said this a few times. I wonder if that's an offensive or, an off-season goal. But again, we talk about it all the time. Wiggins is the only true 3 on the roster. You've got Moody, who's kind of a hybrid 2-3. But so if you're going to move on from Wiggins, you're going to probably be bringing back a 3. You're going to need to bring back a 3. So it does get a little bit tricky. I agree with the comment on, no Kuminga, no athleticism. Like, they do need Kuminga's athleticism. Yeah, Jimbo, appreciate that. We did have a few people that wanted to talk about the potential, the 8 seed. We got into a lot of that. Erwin Curry suggested the Warriors need to stay in a hotel for the rest of home games to keep the road mentality. I think he was joking. I mean, when I heard him, he was joking. I don't think the Warriors would necessarily really do that. If they were going to ever do it, you would do it Tuesday. But I don't think the Warriors...
Tuesday, dress rehearsal, let's go. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. And so, we'll see. It's interesting. I'm kind of stuck still on the Kuminga thing. But yeah, the rotation issues as things go, move forward here. Jimbo says Wiggins and Draymond not compatible. One's got to go. I disagree with that completely. Anything else stand out from the chat as far as some of the comments tonight? Good night of comments.
Good night overall. I felt great about the show. I don't know what it was.
Good. I mean, it was nice to be on the air. It was, the timing of everything aligned with the Giants game in the afternoon, and Lasky was able to have a real good extra innings, and everything kind of aligned with his show and the end of the Warrior game and us getting on the air on time. There were no weird games or weird the Giants didn't go 5 hours or something that put us in limbo. No rain delays, and we got on the air. So yeah, I think that pretty much catches us up on the comments. And so, yeah, I, really appreciate everybody from YK to Douglas Mikes, GSW Vera, Jimbo, Dumpster Fire Dan, all of these things. And I do agree with the sentiment that the Warriors, Steve is going to have to balance. I think Klay Thompson's starting the rest of the year. Like, I think that part's been solidified. I know he said it wasn't going to be for sure, but I him being back in there tonight, like I think he's going to start the rest of the year. I think, Wiggins is probably going to start the rest of the year unless he has a couple of bad games. And then, the question is going to be Kuminga, but I would honestly put Kuminga back in the starting lineup and just put Trace Jackson-Davis on the bench, and then Looney doesn't play. So we'll see. All right, that'll do it. Great stuff tonight. Greg, I appreciate you. Thanks to Kyle Haar as well in studio, cutting up all the sound. And we're going to be back on Tuesday for Dubs OT following the Warriors and the Mavs. And that's going to be a YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter streaming show, as I will be at Harmonic Brewing. Greg, I was trying to maybe think about, I was thinking about this during the last break. I'm like, maybe we could get you out at Harmonic, but you probably have to be in the studio. You got to be in the studio.
That's a conversation for our superiors.
Okay. I was going to say that might be because, that is going to be a YouTube only. And that may be the night we try to debut calls on the YouTube stream as well. That's something I've been working behind the scenes on, and we may be able to debut on Tuesday out at Harmonic Brewing. So, all right, we'll have the conversations that need to be had, Greg, on maybe getting you out to Harmonic Brewing.
I would never say no to Mike and Jimmy and Julia.
No, you cannot. And Shay and everybody else, and Grace. Don't forget them.
Grace and Shay, yes, of course.
Yes, yeah.
I've only done one show there. I'm going to give myself a little slack.
No, I think you're due for another one. And I think, of the games that are left, I think of our home shows, the only YouTube only home show is going to be the one on Tuesday. So just off the top here. So, I'm just looking for an opportunity to get you out and have a brew.
Hey, there is never, ever anything wrong with that.
All right. For Greg and Kyle Haar and everybody at KNBR, I'm John Dickinson. We will talk to you Tuesday. Actually, I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. I've got Sports Phone Postgame Giants tomorrow. That's right. Following the Giants and the Dodgers. So that's the next time that I'm going to be on, as I'll start working some Giants into my schedule here as the Warriors head toward the end of the season. So we'll talk to you tomorrow night. Greg, I'll talk to you on Tuesday. And the Warriors get the win, 117-113. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Double screen for Steph. Curry, wing jumper, rimming out. The rebound, Draymond, play three. Knocks it down. That's just like making a game winner.
Rocket three. Curry three. Oh.
Absolutely lit. Quintessential Draymond Green shows the world why he is still so important to the Golden State Warriors.
Trace Jackson-Davis. Oh! He put the entire country of France in the basket. Take that 8-foot wingspan with you.
Some days I think about homework in school, but then, I got to look and then I don't have it.
I love it. I love that guy so much.
But Grant Williams got to stop it.
Draymond is like fish sauce. Big, fat dub.